Thank you, Nishiyama-san.
Yes.
Very good afternoon to all the participants listening in from Japan and from other countries. First of all, before I start with my presentation on my concept paper, um, I'd like to introduce myself. So my name is Navneel Singh, and I work for the Ministry of Fisheries in Fiji. And today my topic is sustainable management and use of mud crab resource at Naisongavau village, Tailevu province in the central division in Fiji. I will get into more details of the location of this project. Um, so I will just quickly begin with the brief background of the project. So this project is proposed um, in line with the vision of the Fijian government through the Ministry of Fisheries to improve livelihood and food security. Um, as you all know, Fiji government is quite vocal in terms of its commitments to international and regional agreements. So this project will contribute Fiji's commitments towards sustainability, a blue economy, and reduction of IUU fishing activities. One of the international agreements this proposed project will contribute to includes the relevant SDGs and targets of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, basically trying to focus on SDG 14, life below water. Furthermore, there are some national plans set by the government to address sustainable use of marine resources. They include the Fiji 20-year National Development Plan. Also, Ministry of Fisheries has a 10-year strategic plan. We have a national fisheries policy that is in draft at the moment, and also Fiji's national compliance strategy. So all of these different documents are talking about sustainability, management, and reduction of IUU in general. The coastal fisheries sector in Fiji is facing some issues. They include there's lots of legislative gaps that allows a lot of things to pass through um, illegally, and we do not have anything to watertight our legislation unless we update our legislation so we can better enforce it. Number two, most fisheries, especially coastal fisheries, and I can say this is not only the case in Fiji but other countries as well, are in depleting state, and there is a need to reverse this depleting state of resources through guidelines and management plans. The third one I'd like to talk about is there's insufficient data to make informed management decisions. So there is a need to collect current and updated data to help us make management decisions. However, because of COVID-19, a pandemic that most countries are affected by, and Fiji, as a small island nation, is not spared. So, due to the socio-economic impacts of COVID-19, there are a lot of issues within our coastal fishery sector, and one of them includes increase in harvest of banned species such as sea cucumber, and a lot of illegal harvest of high-value commodities such as undersized mud crabs and other inverts. Moving on, my target area is on the big island of the biggest island of Fiji. I mean, yeah, Fiji. So Fiji, as you know, is a very geographically spread island, and it has more than 300 islands. It has a total of 14 provinces, two main islands, Viti Levu, and on Viti Levu, my project is in the central division, which is in marked in red here. The target area for this project is Naisongavau village that is located in the province of Tailevu. which is here, and a much closer zoom up of the map. This is the best map I could find out. Apologies if you cannot see this very clearly, but my village, the site of this project is here, marked in yellow. Okay, moving ahead, my target group, the primary target group and beneficiaries of this project will be mud crab fishers, and also vendors of Naisongavao village and adjacent communities. So in Fiji, the mud crab fishery is predominantly, I mean, it's dominated by the females. Thus, this project will also have a focus on women in fisheries as well. Most women of the village and adjacent communities depend on mud crabs for livelihood, and mostly sell their catch at the Nosori fish market. Some portion of the catch is also sold at Suva, but Suva is quite far from where they live. So this sale is usually on Saturdays, which is a major shopping day in Fiji. The project also aims to address issues to create awareness on the sale and purchase of undersized mud crabs. Thus, the secondary target group for this project will be vendors and buyers of mud crabs at Nosori fish market. Moving ahead, these are some photos just to explain the situation. There's a lot of undersized mud crabs for sale at the markets or roadside stalls. In Fiji, the size limit is 12.5 centimeters for mud crabs, but here in this photo on the right, you can see this is barely 10 centimeters. So all of the crab in this bundle is undersized, and you can imagine the size of the problem we are trying to address here. Moving ahead, these are pictures of two ladies harvesting mud crab at the project site. Moving ahead, outline of the project. Overall goal of the project is to sustain, manage, and protect mud crab resources to support livelihood of the people of Naisongavao village and adjacent communities. The purpose of the project is mud crab fishers in Naisongavao village and adjacent community is sustainably managed. The outputs of the project, I have 4 outputs. The first one is sustainable harvest of mud crabs is practiced. Output number 2, regulatory framework for mud crab management is established. Output number 3, maximum economic value of mud crabs is achieved through proper post-harvest handling techniques. Output number 4, the last one, the harvest and sale of undersized mud crabs is minimized. These are the activities under output number 1. So first activity is establish fishing controls for sustainable harvest through a gazetted regulation. Fishing controls in the form of a total allowable catch or a daily catch limit. So moving ahead, activity number 1.2 is to regulate the fishing effort of mud crab by fishers in Naisongavao fishing ground. So fishing effort will be regulated through setting and introduction of total allowable effort, and that could mean regulating the number of licensed fishermen in the ground, in the fishing ground, also regulating the number of traps or pots per fisher per fishing trip. Activity 1.3 is formulate a sustainable harvest practice manual for resource users. So it's basically writing a manual on sustainable harvest practice, printing it and distributing copies to mud crab fishers at the project site and adjacent communities. Also to digitalize the manual into a video form, so it's easily distributed widely through social media platforms. Activity 1.4 is to train and create awareness amongst mud crab fishers and community members to increase understanding on the sustainable fishing practices. So this will be done through a theory session, basically PowerPoint presentations and group discussions, and also practical session on the same of what we've learned in the theory session. So that will include field visits to fishing grounds for demonstration on sustainable practice for mud crab fishing. Activity 1.5, develop a schedule for Ministry of Fisheries, monitoring, control and surveillance officers, so enforcement officers basically, to engage with mud crab fishers and community members regularly to provide management advice. So we need these enforcement officers to be out there in the field on a regular basis, so they are able to provide management advice. Moving ahead, activities for output number 2. Activity 2.1 will be to develop and implement a community mud crab management plan. So how will we do this? To undertake consultation with our relevant stakeholders, run a workshop with the fishers and community members to introduce ideas that can be used to develop a management plan. Using a bottom-up approach, this will also give the community representatives to come up with their own original ideas and develop their own management plan the way they want it. Of course, with the guidance of Ministry of Fisheries and other experts. Activity 2.2, undertake studies that will assist to establish a possible wholesale and retail price of mud crabs. So right now there is no predetermined price for wholesale and retail of mud crabs. So this will propose to conduct market research to find out a reasonable price. Also to understand and understand supply and demand of mud crabs, and possibly connect mud crab fishes to markets that offer the best price. Activity 2.3, undertake studies to evaluate effectiveness of current size limit of 12.5 centimeters across the carapace length. So there will be a spawning potential ratio research proposed by this project to our research division, who will conduct some research on spawning potential ratio to find out what is the size at maturity for 50% of the population to be matured. That is what is meant by spawning potential ratio. Also to implement a new voluntary size limits for commercial harvesters at Nesangova village under the community management plan. So this will be just like a pledge. It will be not something that will be regulated by the national government, but if the fishers are willing to do this, they are most welcome to do it on voluntary basis. Activity number 2.4. Authorize 5 community members as honorary fish wardens. So these are basically community fish police, community fisheries police, to enforce laws relating to mud crabs only and not anything else. So basically to train participants that will be selected on a merit basis through a proper selection criteria. And once we have selected 5 participants, then we will run a training for fish warden authorization training, after which they can enforce the provisions of our Fisheries Act and any rules relating to mud crabs. Activity number 2.5 is to introduce additional management measures such as ban on harvest of buried females and newly molted crabs and harvesting in spawning season. So currently in Fiji, there is only one rule for mud. There is 2 rules for commercial harvest of mud crabs. The first one is you need to have a license, and the second one is the size limits, and there are no additional management measures. So it is proposed that buried females or females that are carrying eggs not to be harvested, newly molted crabs not to be harvested, and a ban during the spawning season to be implemented. So to do that, we need to undertake some consultations with relevant stakeholders. As you might know that newly malted crepes are not full of meat, thus it is considered of low value unless it is sold as a soft shelled crepe. But this commodity is not popular in Fiji and it's of no value. They are not economically viable to sell. Activities for output number 3. So these are all related to post-harvest handling techniques. So activity number 3.1 is to undertake post-harvest trainings to lessen damage to mud crabs during and after harvest. As you have seen in the pictures earlier, mud crabs in Fiji are usually tied up with the natural or synthetic strings and often tied together in a bundle. So in the process, the crabs happen to lose claws and legs. They get damaged. Therefore, a NGO called Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS in short, has done some similar trainings with communities in the Northern Division using a Philippine technician from a private company, Crep Company of Fiji. So this project can collaborate with WCS to run trainings on reducing post-harvest damage to mud crabs. Activity number 3.2, reduction of mortality of mud crabs through post-harvest trainings and provision of icebox to fishes. One of the major contributors to mud crab mortality is heat stress, and provisions of icebox will reduce heat stress during transportation from the harvest sites to the markets. Activity number 3.3, undertake post-harvest trainings for harvesters and vendors. So this training aims to teach on main topics of mud crab post-harvest handling, and they include temperature control. Best temperature to keep mud crabs alive is around 18 to 30 degrees Celsius. Also, significant stresses of mud crabs, what contributes to stress in mud crabs. Other topics are how to minimize stress through the supply chain. So the more you handle and move around the crabs, the more stress they get. And the third one is grading of mud crabs, grading them into A grade, B grade, C grade, where A grade is of the highest quality and C grade is of the lowest quality. Activities for output number 4. This is concentrating on harvest and sale of undersized mud crabs. So activity 4.1 is to undertake awareness programs for vendors or buyers on consequences of buying undersized mud crabs. So this awareness program will be done at the Navneel fish market. So basically, a short educational video will be developed and played continuously at the Navneel fish market. So vendors passing by and buying crabs will be able to learn more about the consequences of buying undersized crabs. So you can get fined. Not only that, but also the impacts of harvesting undersized mud crabs to the fishery itself. Also develop and distribute pamphlets or brochures, and this will be distributed to vendors and customers at the Navneel fish market. Possibly also to provide t-shirts to mud crab vendors with important messages printed on them. So that will be like a advertisement, and it can also be used like a uniform for the mud crab vendors. Activity number 4.2 is to propose new fines and penalties relating to unregulated harvest and distribution of undersized mud crab. So there needs to be some research and consultations done with our relevant stakeholders to review the fines and penalties for harvesters and vendors who harvest or sell undersized mud crabs. Activity number 4.3 is to review license conditions for mud crab fishes. So current licensing condition only includes fishing area and size limits, as I've talked about earlier. So the Ministry of Fisheries will analyze current issues relating to licensing and discuss a way forward to change licensing condition. Something like introducing measures that will result in cancellation of license for repeating offenders. Right now, if you are caught selling undersized mud crabs or harvesting it, you are only issued fines or formal warnings, but there is nothing that is allowing us, Ministry of Fisheries, to cancel license. So there needs to be some additional measures that will act as a deterrent for people who have the habit of repeatedly harvesting undersized mud crabs and selling them. Activity number 4.4 is to implement monitoring and follow-up activities to control mud crab harvest in the communities. So basically, introduction of catch log sheets to record length and weight data, monitor the mud crab harvest in the license condition. So this will include visit to target community regularly to check the mud crab harvest records and activities. Also to make an on-site follow-up advice on the regulations and license of mud crab harvest to the communities. The inputs to this project include a few things. In terms of equipment, we need training, workshop or consultation venues. We need projector, screen and speakers, multimedia. We need some basic stationery for workshops and consultations. They include flip charts, markers and sticky notes. Icebox for transportation of mud crabs. Proper protective equipment for field visits, laptop or a desktop computer, printer cartridge and paper supply for printing certain awareness materials and booklets, camera and GPS. Furthermore, awareness materials such as t-shirts, banners, etc. Size limit rulers for harvesters, mud crab harvesters and vendors. Also a fish warden toolkit that will include basic tools to help them carry out their work efficiently, and they include notebooks to note down issues, torch to perform their duties at night as well, and tablet PCs that can be used to report any infringements to the relevant authorities such as Ministry of Fisheries or the Fiji Police Department. Personnel for this project will include community reps. They are fishers and training participants. Also vendors at the markets. Ministry of Fisheries staff, especially our extension officers, extension and advisory services, and our enforcement officers, monitoring, control and surveillance officers. Technical experts from Crab Company of Fiji, mud crab hatchery and grow out post-harvest technician. So this person will be used to train on how to tie crabs and how to handle crabs. So basically teaching harvesters on post-harvest handling. Consultants to review regulatory frameworks or management plans, or probably the new regulations that we want to implement, and as well as WCS, Wildlife Conservation Society staff. So I will explain later why do we need staff from Wildlife Conservation Society in the section where we talk about related activities and projects. So the estimated operational cost for this project is 75,000 Fijian dollars. Implementation schedule is from January 2022 to December 2024. So basically 2 years. A breakdown of all the activities, I will show it to you later in the Excel plan of operations. Implementing agencies for this project is Ministry of Fisheries through its Inshore Fisheries Management Division. Agencies that will be supporting and collaborating with the project include Ministry of Fisheries Research Division that will conduct the spawning potential ratio research, Wildlife Conservation Society, Crep Company of Fiji that will provide technicians. We also have to involve our provincial council, so Tailevu Provincial Office, and also Ministry of Local Government, which controls Nosori Municipal Market. And the Nosori Fish Market is part of Nosori Municipal Market. Related activities and projects. So there are a few related activities and projects of this proposed project, and they have been all implemented by Wildlife Conservation Society. So I'd like to talk about three things Wildlife Conservation Society has done in relation to my project.
Shin-san, sorry.
The first one,
Shin-san, 25 minutes
to
past.
protect the mud crab fishery in the community of Navneel. That's villages of Waitambu and Tadilevu in the province of Bua. So Bua province is on the other major island of Fiji called Vanuatu. So they have committed themselves to a 3-year mud crab management plan
Mr. Singh,
in 2018. And this was developed by WCS with collaboration with the Ministry of Fisheries. The second one, WCS has conducted some value chain analysis for mud crabs, also in the same province, Bua. The third one, they have produced just recently a manual on mud crab post-harvest fattening and handling. So if you harvest mud crabs that is less than the legal size limits, so you can put them in pens and fatten them up. So this is basically what the manual is for. There are no other remarks. I would now like to show you my plan of operation.
Shin-san, hello, can you stop? Mr.
So
Singh?
this is what it looks like. The project period, of course, is January 2022 to December 2024. The target area is Naisongobau village in the province of Tailevu. The target group is mud crab fishers and vendors.
Mr. Singh,
purpose of the project is mud crab fisheries in Naisongobau village and adjacent community is sustainably managed. And on the first column are all the outputs, and beside them are corresponding activities. So activity number 1.1, establishing fishing controls for sustainable harvest through gazetted regulation, will be done in the first 3 months of the first year. Activity number 1.2, also first 3 months of the first year. Activity 1.3, that is to formulate a harvest practice manual for resource users, will be done in the first half of the first year. Training and creating awareness amongst mud crab fishers and community members to increase understanding of sustainable fishing practices will be done in the month of July, first year. And a schedule for MCS officers to engage with the community members will be developed in the month of August, first year. Output number 2, develop in 2.1, sorry, activity 2.1, develop and implement community management plan. So this will basically take the second half of the first year, so 6 months allocated for that. And for activities 2.2 and 2.3, so undertaking studies to establish possible wholesale and retail prices, and also to evaluate the effectiveness of current size limits. This will involve the spawning potential ratio research. So we need to allow enough time to get data for like a good data set throughout the year. So we will have data sets during spawning season, after spawning season, and so on, and that will that will affect weight data. So basically, these two activities will run over 18 months. So from the second half of the first year to the end of the second year. Authorization training for fish wardens will be conducted in the 9th month of the first year. Additional management measures such as ban harvest of buried females and newly molted crepes. And also harvesting spawning season will be done in the months of July, August, and September of the second year. All activities under output number 3 will be done in first 3 months of the second year, and all of these are related to post-harvest training. So all of these trainings can be blended together and can be delivered together. So that's why all the trainings are listed in the first 3 months of the second year. Output number 4, activity 4.1 is to undertake awareness programs for vendors or buyers on consequences of buying undersized mud crabs at Nosori Municipal Market, Nosori Fish Market. Will be done in the 4th, 5th, and 6th month of the second year. New fines and penalties relating to unregulated harvest and distribution, also 4th, 5th, and 6th year. Licensing conditions for mud crab fishers will be reviewed in April, May, and June. Not only that, and then after these are done in April, May, and June, there will be a time lapse of 3 months before we can review activities and work and focus on them to improve things in the last 3 months of the second year. Activity number 4.4, which is the last one, is to implement monitoring and follow-up activities to control mud crab harvest in the communities. So this will be done in the second half of the second year. So basically, this brings me to the end of my presentation. I will now allow for questions and comments and criticism as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Singh.
Do we have any questions from the floor?
I have the one question from Yamao. Can I? He's talking about community fisheries policy. That is a very interesting system. Can you explain when did you start community fisheries policy? Already started or not yet?
Okay, Mr. Singh, did you get the question?
Yes, okay. Thank you for your question, Yamao-san.
Yeah.
The fisheries warden system has been started quite some number of years ago, and we have over the years trained over 1,000 people as fish wardens through many trainings that we have run over the past years. But currently the fish warden system is under review. We don't know how many trained participants are still active, how many of them are still alive, and so on. There's a lot of issues with the strategy. So the strategy is currently being reviewed, but we still have this system in place for a long time now, and this is called the honorary fish warden system. So the minister has the powers to appoint honorary fish wardens by issuing them ID card, and after they've undergone through the training process. The training is usually over 1 week, and they are taught about all the provisions of the Fisheries Act, which they will have powers to enforce. So this is already working, but we need some to only work for the communities to enforce laws on mud crabs. So specific fisheries police to look after mud crabs issues only.
山本先生、マイクがミュートです。
Related to this point, I have another small question. You mentioned that you are planning the making new penalty and fine. And
yes,
Did you have the present fine in the penalty system?
Yes, current fines is up to maximum of $500 Fijian or 3 months imprisonment, and this is a very small deterrent. As you know, mud crab is a high value product in it's a high value product. So the fines and penalties compared to the economic loss is very small. So that needs to be reviewed and updated. So if the fine is higher, like $5,000 to $10,000, which is the case in other countries, and that will act like a strong deterrent for fishers to stop harvesting undersized and selling undersized mud crabs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yamon Sensei. And how about Arimoto Sensei and Miyata-san? Do you have any comments or questions?
Can I have a question?
Yes, please.
Remote. Oh. Yes. I have simple 3 questions and 1 difficult question. And starting from the 3 questions, what fishing fish? And then how many fishers in the target group, target area? And how many staff members to monitor and review the project? It's a simple question, please. Clarify your project.
I'm sorry, you seem to be breaking up. I couldn't hear you clearly. Can you please repeat your questions?
What kind of fishing gear the fisher use to catch mud crab?
Can I answer your questions one by one, please?
Yes, please. First question.
So currently, I mean, in Fiji, there's a few methods of catching mud crabs. First one is they will catch mud crabs by hand, like putting their hands into the burrows of mud crabs and pulling them out. And the other one is also the crab nets. So these are simple metal rings with a material, synthetic material, something like a gill net, and they will just drop them down with the baits, and they frequently pull them to check if a crab is sitting on the bait. So these baited nets, and the other one is also some people also set gill nets for mud crabs along the mangrove forest. So three methods that this community is practicing.
Yes, I got it. And the second question is, how many fishers in the target area?
Target area, there are about 25 to 30 mud crab fishers.
Not so many.
Yes.
And how many staff members to monitor and review the project? Your staff member.
Oh, okay. So basically, we have one extension and advisory officer that is looking after that province. So there's one extension and advisory officer that will be that is currently looking after the province of Tailevu for extension and advisory services. So one member for that, and probably from the project implementation side from us, Ministry of Fisheries, Inshore Fisheries Division, we will have one person who will be in charge of the project. So that person will oversee all the activities.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I understand well that your listed activities can be very well organized. And one big difficult question to you is, I mean, the listed activities is, and which part can be the most difficult step to complete? The listed activities for 2 years is, I think, too many and too detailed. And which part of the goal is most difficult for your activities? Is my question.
Most difficult part will be trying to get up a good management plan for the communities. And also the other one is regulatory frameworks. So, when it comes to legal aspects of fisheries management, there's a lot of processes involved. And in the case of Fiji, there's a lot of back and forth to our Solicitor General's office and then back to us. So we amend and resubmit. And then it has to go through a parliamentary sitting where Parliament approves a cabinet paper that will be drafted for amendments of regulations, like, for example, reviewing fines and penalties. So there is a very tedious process, and that will be probably the most difficult part to implement. But then again, we have done similar things in the past for other regulatory or legislative changes, and we do have experience on how to keep these things on track and fast track it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I believe 20 to 25 fishers is a good number, and it is easy to handle by yourself. And you understand the difficult part. So I appreciate your effort, and I hope you can have the good success for your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The comments from Arimoto-sensei. Dr. Miyata, if you have any comments, questions?
Yes, so I'm Miyata. Hello. Hello again. So, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I have one question regarding activity 2.5. You mentioned so introduce additional management measure such as a ban and the harvest or something. So you said I think also spawning season. Spawning season is very important for sustainable resource use. And my question is is there closing session, closing fisheries season, in the spawning season in the area? And the second question, I'm sorry. So regarding this question, so is there MPA, marine protected area for mud crab in this area?
Thank you for your question. Right now, there is no closed spawning seasons. We only have a seasonal ban on one commodity, that is the grouper and the coral trout. We have a spawning season ban, so 4 months of no fishing from June to September. But we would like to implement something for mud crab spawning season as well. And also, we'd like to implement or designate a community managed marine protected area under the management plan that the communities will prepare for themselves. So when we are running the workshop, we will put forward ideas as to how we can also manage this resource through setting up not one MP but a series of MPs. That works much better.
Thank you. 西山さん、時間ってまだありますか？
まだ、はい、3分、4分ぐらいあります。はい。
そうですか。すみません。I'm sorry. So I have another question. So yes. I already give you a presentation regarding illegal fishing for the countermeasure. My presentation. I already give you. So in my presentation, I give explanation regarding mutual check by fishermen themselves. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the system for implementing in your country or your the target area? Mutual check by fisheries. So you try to the so control by the so officer, but so the anyway. So of course you know the so officers are very busy every day, so that's why it is easy. It is difficult to conduct the survey every day and every time. So in this case, so the so mutual check is also available. I think so that.
Yes, thank you for your comment and recommendation. But the way we see it is, if you see the social, social aspects. So if one mud crab fisher is harvesting mud crabs illegally, and then he's approached by somebody else who's also harvesting illegally, so they might not report about each other. So this is
Okay.
why I'm proposing to have 5 fisheries community fisheries police. That will be, so this is called like a fisheries independent survey. So
Oh.
we'll have some third person opinion from there. So probably they are reporting correctly. But if we have these self check, people checking each other, they might just tell us everything is okay, but actually probably we don't know, behind our backs they are also harvesting illegal size. So these are my thoughts, but we can do that. We can use that method, and probably do some random checks from our side to see if it is working or not. So thank you for your suggestion.
Yeah, thank you. You're a good idea. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think it's almost time. So thank you very much for the presentation, Singh-san.